Hello, hello, hello. I hope you can hear me. This is not the ideal way that I'm doing it, but I think it will work. So I've had some real technical issues. My laptop decided it wanted to do a Windows 10 update, which was great, just as I was about to start. And then OBS decided that it didn't want to stream Zoom properly and didn't show any picture or anything. So just had a blank screen. So I'm hoping that you can hear me okay. You're probably going to see me flicking about on my screen. The stream's going to show stuff flicking about on my screen as I flick around, which is not ideal, but it's going to have to do, I'm afraid. So can you hear me okay? If you can just let me know that you can hear everything okay. You can hear well. Okay, that's good. Right. Okay, so um, I'll just give it a few minutes just to come in, because I know obviously it's been a bit delayed. Hope everybody's staying well and virus free. Hello JD, hello Tamara Hayes, hello Candy Williams, Helen Rowley, Kimberly Welsh Lady. How you doing? Hope you've had a good what day are we? Monday. Monday. So as you know, I'm gonna call in Tania Hagen. Now, if you don't know, Tania Hagen's written a book called No Inclination, which is heavily inspired by the Chris Watts story. It's quite clear as you start to read it, if you're familiar with the Chris Watts story, that it's obviously heavily linked to that story. So if you're not familiar with it, then you're going to find out about it. I just think it's important to, that this author in particular has stuck to the facts, and it's not an outlandish story. There's no sensationalism or anything like that in it. So, okay, bear with me 1 second. Hang on 1 sec. I'm just going to try and call Tania in. But as I say, the problems I'm having, I'm not entirely convinced that this is going to be successful. Hello?
Hello, can you hear me? See me?
I can hear you, see, yeah, I'm having all sorts of problems. I've just had
Awesome.
to switch one off, so I don't want to have any more issues. I just thought it'd make life a
Sure.
little bit easier if I don't have my video streaming as
Awesome.
well. So, can everybody
So
hear
yeah.
Tania okay in the chat? I think they
Hello.
can, hopefully. I'm sure they
I
can.
hope
Yeah,
so.
yeah, it's all good.
I've got a big mouth, so
It's all good. Well,
good.
thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Oh my gosh, this is awesome. I appreciate it.
I know you've done quite a few. Or done the
I
rounds
have.
a little bit, haven't you, on YouTube and
I
stuff like that?
have. Absolutely. I've been everywhere. Yeah, I think I've been on, I mean, I don't even know how many channels so far, but it's been a lot of fun. I love talking, and I love, talking about the book or about theories or whatever. So yeah,
Mm,
definitely.
yeah. Well, I'm on about chapter 31, so I haven't quite completed the book, but I'm very near the end.
Okay.
But obviously, I'm aware that I don't want to spoil it for people, so I suppose
Sure.
got to sort of tread carefully a little bit. But
Um,
um, So
What do you think about it so far?
I think it's great. I think it's yeah, it's fantastic. It's it's very well written. You viewing it from different perspectives as well.
Yes,
Um, you
definitely.
know,
Thank you. I
from the
appreciate that. Thank you.
from the people involved.
Right. And it sort of goes over my theory about what might have happened. So that's as long as you know that. I've changed my mind about a couple of things, but not anything major.
Hmm,
So yeah, that's pretty much my theory. And it's people tell me it's an easy read, so it's not difficult to get through it. Except for the fact that it's kind of heartbreaking, of course, and I had all kinds of trouble with my own emotions writing it, but I got through it, and I think that the ending is uplifting, so I think people will appreciate that. I don't know.
okay, I haven't reached that bit yet. So, but yeah,
No,
that's something to look forward to as well. In a horrible story, if you can bring an
right,
uplifting
right.
end to something like that, then
Yes, I did that intentionally. Hopefully, providing maybe some closure to some people who are looking for answers. And I think I tried to cover every mystery that's remaining in the case, but there are so many. So there are a few I didn't touch on, like the sunflowers and things like that. But I think I tried to cover everything, and it was very important to me to have the 5-year-old daughter rather than the 4-year-old daughter basically be my main character. The book is about her and for her, more or less. So that would be Bella. But her
mm,
name's Kinsey in the book, of course.
yeah, yeah. So if we just sort of take it back from the start then, so when did you first think about writing this book, and what made you come to that decision that you wanted to write this book?
Sure. Well, I want to say October of 2018. A good friend of mine, one of my best friends, David Smith, he's actually in the book. I plugged him into a character. He was very interested in the case, and he said, "Tania, go take a look at this Watts case. It's horrific." And I glanced at it quickly, but I was working on my Ghost to Grey Gardens book with my dear friend Lois Wright. She's 91 years old, beautiful lady. So we were writing her biography at the time, and I was completely swamped with that. And I believe I had a trip coming up for like a book tour out in the Hamptons, and I didn't really take a look at it. I want to say until October. He might have brought it up, right after it happened. And I knew I wanted to write about it because I was so hurt by everything. And when I, have an emotional response to something, my first instinct is to write about it. And initially, I wanted to do a nonfiction. Um, so I started gathering my materials, and I was going to even ask some of the family members or some of the friends and acquaintances, maybe neighbor Nate, to contribute to the book. So it will be, words spoken from everyone from every side. And then Sherilyn Cadle announced her book. And I believe Lena may have announced her book as well. So I thought, oh no, there's these two nonfictions coming out. And especially Sherilyn's book. She had so much information that none of us will ever have. I assumed that it wouldn't be right for me to do another nonfiction. It would be stepping on everyone's toes, and I didn't want to, I didn't want to take any thunder away from anyone, else who was writing that type of book. Um, so I said, well, I'm going to do it as fiction because in fiction I can tell everybody what I think without actually saying it, and I can let the characters, the victims actually have a voice, which they weren't given. So I wanted to make everyone aware of what they might have been thinking, what the experience might have been like for them, and to continue on afterwards. And I don't want to give anything away, but I definitely wanted to give the victims a voice. And I had to get into the mind of the killer. In my case, it was Charlie. We all know he represents Chris Watts. But I had to get into his mind a little bit, which was scary. Just I felt so creepy to be able to tell the story accurately. But yeah, long answer there. But I think it was because of my friend David that I became interested in the case.
Mm, okay. So you touched on it just a bit earlier. You found the whole experience, I would imagine, quite emotionally draining, right? Going
Oh
through the whole
yes,
story, and I
it was
mean,
awful.
just tell us
I
a
mean,
little
it was
bit about that, the kind of phases that you went through.
Oh my gosh, there were
emotionally?
nights when I would stay up all night. I mean, I'm talking, I would literally go get in bed at 8 a.m. for like 2 hours because I was sitting there at my keyboard crying and trying to rip through a chapter where, the little girl is speaking, or when, the wife is speaking and about their experiences during this whole thing. And I kept thinking, I can't do this. How in the world could I type another word, in this horrible place? And you have to feel what they feel. And writing is very emotional anyway. And when you write about something like this, it's just it's awful. But I made it through, thank heavens. And I think that turned out something that everyone would be able to appreciate, but it was horrible for me. And then there were times I was cheering, especially in the end. I was thinking, oh gosh, let's hope this is the way the world works. But so it was a roller coaster of emotions. I probably would, definitely say that.
I'm sure everybody can appreciate that. I mean,
Sure,
everybody online, everybody on social media, it's for everybody who's looked at any depth into the case. It's been
sure.
a complete emotional drain, isn't it? It's the
Oh,
fact
definitely
the fact that you've
horrible.
got that, yeah, the whole fact of the fact that you've got this seemingly normal, loving father who's basically wiped his family out. Nobody can understand it, and I think that's probably the problem that a lot of people have. Um,
Sure.
how can you possibly understand somebody who does something like that? So how did
And
you?
it's so impossible. You're correct. How would it could be my husband, it could be my neighbor's husband, my best friend. How could no one could see this coming in any way, shape, or form. So I think we all have grabbed onto this case and they feel like they're our family. I feel like, Shanann is my best buddy and we talk all the time, but they're not. But the children, oh my gosh, how could you not become engrossed looking at those babies living their life every day and then know what happened to them? I think a lot of women my age are probably very into this because we're moms, and it broke my heart, and I know it did everyone else too. It was
Hmm.
just horrible.
I mean, of course, it has the domestic violence side to it as
Right.
well. I mean, it's the ultimate domestic violence, isn't it? But it's domestic violence all the same. Um,
Exactly. Exactly.
so maybe a lot of
And
women, yeah.
yeah, a lot of women, and I'm hoping even through my book, we actually put some phone numbers in the book for people who might need help. And I'm hoping even with my book, people can read it. And if they're in that kind of situation, they'll say, well, boy, I better get out of it right now. So it might hit home for a lot of women. I'm hoping that, at least with my book, that there'll be some kind of a way for them to reach out. And, even for people who aren't in that situation, to understand what a woman has gone through that ended her life and her babies too, all three of her babies. So, yeah, it's horrible all around, and no one expected it. Looking at that man, connecting with his children, I don't think anyone would have expected what he would do. No
No,
way.
absolutely not, not in a million years.
No.
So I'm just interested. So how much did you watch of? Because you obviously know around social media there's a whole sort of circus of conspiracies and this happened and this happened and
There are
all
a
of that
whole bunch
stuff.
of them.
Yeah. How
Right.
much of that did you look at and watch before you started writing, and did any of that affect your writing of the
I've
book?
looked at everything. And there was even a week, I want to say it was back in August of 2019, that I thought I read an article about Marilyn Lemack, who's a woman, in Naperville, the town over from me, who got her kids from school and she fed them poison peanut butter crackers and killed all three of her children because her husband had an affair and was living with another woman. So even for about a week, not too long ago, while I was writing the book, I thought, oh my gosh, could Shanann have done that? And I feel terrible. I feel very, very bad for ever thinking that. But I had to kick around all possibilities, and I wanted to see Nicole Kessinger as the villain. I did, because how could she do that to a family? I'm just talking about them having the affair, and but I can't. I really can't when it comes down to the technical parts of the crime. There's no way she would have done this. But yeah, I know there are a lot of theories out there, and I know that people feel very strongly about their theories, and that's fine. I think in the end, we're all just looking for justice for this beautiful family. So let us think whatever we think until we get to the bottom of it. I appreciate all the theories, even the conspiracy ones that are kind of out there. Nicole Atkinson had something to do with it, so whatever the case may be, I think that the theories are good because they lead to the truth in the end. And I happen to believe that Chris Watts is telling the truth now. Whatever he said to Cheryl and Cadel, I believe that's very close to what really happened, unfortunately. So yeah.
Yeah, I do too. I think he's still leaving stuff out. I think he's still there's certain lies that
Sure.
or things that he's not saying. I mean,
Right.
in my personal opinion, I think he probably had already been there and probably already kind of dug the hole and stuff like that.
I do too.
Things
I
like
do
that.
too.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
as far as anyone else's involvement, I don't believe anyone else is involved at all.
I do not believe any other adult was involved in any of this. Not that there was a child involved in it, but I don't believe in Kay or, Troy or neighbor Nate or whatever. None of them, of course, were involved. There's no way. And, I was on AD's show the other night, and I did agree with a lot of the things he was showing me because his evidence is very compelling that Nicole Kessinger was involved. It looks kind of strange, those videos, but it is Chris Watts. I don't think that isn't a woman. So many things don't make sense with that theory. And so, yeah, I entertain the theories, but I don't seriously consider them. Like when I thought Shanann Watts, I was going to call her Rusek, which is probably more appropriate. I don't believe she had anything to do with the babies dying, even though, as I mentioned, this Marilyn Lemack close to me did exactly that with her children. And she was a perfect Midwestern housewife too. There's, but no, I entertained that theory for a moment in time just to see if maybe I could think that way. And I certainly didn't in the end. I'm very ashamed for thinking that even for a second. But yeah, I think he's telling the truth now in his final confession, but there are some details he's leaving out. And one of those details that I'm fearful of is that Bella might have been alive when she went in the tank. And I'm going to be talking with a psychic on another YouTube channel later this week. And she has some scary visions that indicate exactly that. So anyway, there's so many things to consider that I think he's still leaving out. But I think we've got the most of it covered as far as how the crime happened. But you never know. Who knows? I really don't.
Yeah, I think there's probably some details that probably best not known, to be honest.
Right. Right.
Sort of,
Definitely.
yeah, things like that. Um, so how long did it take you, sort of from start to finish, to write?
Oh, not very long. I whip out books in about 3 months. This one took about 5 or 6 months. Really, not very long at all. No, I'm a speedy writer. So I think the longest book I ever, actually the longest word count book and the longest time it took me to write a book would have been my first one, The Cure, which took me about 9 months to write. And I hear these authors are working on books for 5 and 6 years, and I just don't understand what you do with your time working on a book for that long. But no, it was about 5 months, 5 or 6, not very long at all, before I sent it to the publisher.
And how many sort of crime novels have you written? Is this have you got quite a few
This
in your
is the
backlog?
first crime novel. No, I do have one novella, which is a short book, about 20,000 words, about a third of what a regular book would be, called Severed. And it's about a female serial killer. But in all my stories, there's always a twist ending. And in this story, even though she was chopping up men and making sort of a man suit out of the men, or what wasn't quite that, she was trying to construct the perfect body. And in the end, there's a big twist where that's not what was happening at all. And then I have another story in a collaboration lurking in the shadows, or I'm sorry, it was a different one. It was like demons and devils. It was through a different publisher who asked me to contribute. And that's called The Lair. And it's about a man who goes around shooting up an elementary school. But again, nothing is the way it appears, and that's not what happened really at all. So as far as crime, I've done those two. And this is the first time I've actually attacked a real crime and turned it into a novel. I did start writing a novel about Kaylee Anthony, which is about half done on my computer. And I literally was doing that years ago, and I'm thinking about going back to it. And recently, the thought of the John Benet Ramsey horrible thing that happened, I've been kicking around maybe doing a book on that as well, because it's, so far gone. But I actually think I enjoy doing fiction out of, out of the, pardon me, I've got a call coming in. I'll brush it away.
Oh,
Out of everything, I do enjoy doing the fiction out of a true crime. So I may do either the Kaylee Anthony or the Jean Benet Ramsey case, perhaps. I don't know. There's a lot of ways I can go right now. But I do enjoy writing it. Yes,
mm,
definitely. Even though it's terrifying and heartbreaking, it was a overall positive experience. I think when I got it down to where I thought, this is what people need to hear right now. So
mm.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's, from our channel's perspective, it's, we strongly feel that, that all these conspiracies, we think they're all absurd, to be perfectly honest, a lot of them. I can see how people think they look
sure,
compelling, like you say, but when you kind of put sense and logic and
sure,
everything else into it, and obviously the facts of the discovery and the fact that the FBI
right.
obviously
It
probably know
doesn't
what
make
they're
sense.
doing. Yeah.
No,
Um,
no,
although it does
right.
look compelling, and there are, and particularly with NK, yes, she did lie. There's no doubt she lied. There's no doubt she did some stuff that you think, well, that looks a little bit dodgy.
She did. Right,
Um, but
right,
I think people are sort of getting confused with moral crimes, if you like, with actual,
right.
with the murders. Do you know what I mean? There's kind of a huge gap there
Absolutely,
that people
right.
are jumping from one to the other.
Mhm.
I mean,
And
what?
you could have terrible moral values and have an affair and be a horrible person, but I don't see motive. I don't see um a means. I mean, I believe she had to be at work on August 13th. She had to be there in her office. And if she wasn't there at this point, there's going to be some coworker who would come forward and say, it's very strange we didn't see her around, even to sell it to the Inquirer or whatever. There's going to be someone who comes forward to say that she wasn't there in the office that morning. I don't believe that there wouldn't be. And, there's a lot of other points because, I mean, if she had done this and she was at the Watts home, how did she get out of there? The back door, maybe, but it would be, there's no reason for it. There's no reason for any of it. And she's not going to meet a man, say, I'm going to kill your babies the next month or two. Even if they were together for a year, I can't see that. I really can't see her doing that.
No, I
It
don't.
makes no sense.
It doesn't. It makes no
No,
sense. I don't know if there's ever been a case like that before in history. I've not never
no,
found anything like that. It's just, and like you say, they've known each other. I mean, there is this grey area, isn't there? They apparently they only knew each other since June. The texts that they
right,
recovered only reflect that. Everything else
right.
reflects that. But you've got these weird searches from a long time ago. Um,
And I don't understand that. That's the only part of the mystery that keeps me, intrigued, is that why would she have searched for him before she met him?
hmm.
I That's very odd, unless the dates were wrong. Um, I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I've toyed with that idea. Is it a typo? Are the dates wrong?
Maybe.
Because I think in the discovery it references the 111-minute phone call as 51
Right.
mi as 51 minutes, I believe,
Oh,
in the
okay.
discovery. Yeah,
Okay,
um,
I didn't know there was that discrepancy. I'm sorry. I must have missed that one.
I'm pretty sure there's obviously a phone bill says 111 minutes, but I'm pretty sure in the discovery they put 51
Oh,
minutes.
so
So
they
that
were wrong in the discovery. Right. Okay.
yeah, wrong in discovery. But yeah, I don't know. I don't. I mean, even if say she was a stalker and she stalked them,
Right.
um, yeah, that's very weird. And
It's very weird. Right. But I
y-
think she did. I
yeah,
think she did.
but again, it it,
Hmm.
it doesn't um, make her complicit in the murders, doesn't it? It doesn't. You can't jump from that to. I don't think she
Right.
had a
To
clue that.
jump from that to murder. And
Mm,
no, no, I don't think so. And I think that as she found out during the day that they were missing and he was not answering her questions in a straight and logical manner, I think the woman panicked and she thought, oh my gosh, my boyfriend is killed his whole family. I sure don't want to be implicated. I'm going to delete all my texts and all of my contacts with this man right now. And then her mistake was to go to the police and tell them, "Oh, I deleted all his stuff because he lied to me and I don't want a liar, anywhere in my life." That wasn't true. She deleted everything so she wouldn't be implicated. Simple. I probably would do the same thing. I would panic and think, "Oh no, now I'm going to get, the police breathing down my neck because I have all these texts to him." And I think some of her texts even said things like, "Will truly be free when you get rid of your wife," type of thing. And, well, which of course probably was her thought, but I think that she was terrified that people would misconstrue those statements. And so she deleted everything, and she should have been honest with the police department and the FBI, certainly, and said, "I deleted them because I was terrified that I would look guilty." But yeah, I don't know, any other explanation for that. And the thing about Googling the whole family a year prior, I can't wrap my head around that one either. And I don't know, I don't, if the dates were correct, we need to know why. I agree with that. We definitely need to know why she would have done that for people she didn't even know. And she didn't work with them at the time, him at the time.
No, it is
So
extremely
I
weird.
don't know. I
Mm,
really don't know about those searches.
no.
Very weird. Yeah.
How much
Oh,
put
I
her into
just
some?
researched would. Sure, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say the FBI
Oh, you're
clearly
breaking up.
put her
You're
into
breaking up.
some. Breaking up.
Oh, you're okay now.
Okay. Um, the FBI clearly put her into some kind of protection program, didn't they? They've clearly
I believe so.
helped her get out of it because the fact that there's no trace of her, no one's heard from her.
Right. She couldn't do that on her own. I don't think they put her into any formal type of program because she doesn't qualify. I believe that there were a bunch of people in the FBI and the CBI and even the local police department who felt sorry for her. And I'd like to push it a little further and say that she may have been pregnant. And so therefore she got all this sympathy. And they said, "Well, we'll pull a few strings and make it easier for you to disappear. Just, gather your own money or your dad's or whatever and go." And I think that's the only way it could have worked out. And I do believe people like Tammy Lee or, Bomover or, a lot of the people who were right there at ground zero would feel sorry for this woman and even think if she would have stayed with this man, she'd be next type of thing. But yeah, I think they helped her, but not officially or formally. I think they simply maybe doctored some documents or something like that to make it easier for her to go away. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think she did have a baby.
you
I'm
think
going to go
so?
out on a limb and say that. I think so, yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah,
guess
I really do.
I guess it could be. I mean, she was quite promiscuous, I think, wasn't she? It could be anyone's.
She was.
If that was true, it could be anyone's baby anyway, couldn't it?
It could. You're correct. But I think she might have thought it was Watt's baby.
Mm.
Um, and in which case, I mean, like I said, I don't know if you've gotten to that part in the book. Oh, sorry, I just gave away a big thing. But wouldn't I be fearful sorry, I'd be fearful my whole life that that child would have antisocial personality disorder, like the father, if that was the case. I don't know about her other friends or boyfriends or whatever, but I would be terrified. I'd get a paternity test right away. And I mean, I just watched the child grow and I'd probably obsess about it so much that the poor kid would, go through torture with me as his or her mom. But yeah, I think that they would feel that sympathy for her if she had been pregnant. And I think that might have been the thing that, tipped them over the ledge with wanting to help her because this poor lady, look where she is. She could have been next. And now she's carrying a baby that might be his. So yeah, I think she had help getting away for sure.
Yeah, and that is another point which leads me to believe that there's obviously something that they saw or they know for sure that she wasn't involved because
Right,
they wouldn't have done that. They wouldn't have. I mean,
right,
even Shanann's family said they asked multiple times, many times. Was anyone else involved? And they made it clear,
right,
no,
right,
no. And I can't believe the
right.
FBI when it comes to children, they're not going to let someone
No,
just run off scot-free.
No, they're not going to let someone walk away.
No.
And there must have been pretty compelling evidence that she was where she said she was supposed to be. And I don't understand that peeing in the morning after Chris had already driven away to go bury his family. I don't understand that, except for the fact that perhaps she, I took it a little in this direction a bit in the book, that she was stalking them. I don't have her stalking them on the morning of, because I thought that would be going too far. But I do believe she may have frequently pulled up in front of the house and just sat there and watched and listened. And she may very well have been upset because she knew Shanann came home the night before and she couldn't get a hold of Chris, or when she did, it was very short, brief texts or whatever. And she was concerned that they reconciled or something. So she drove by the house at 6:30 that morning to see if she could see Shanann and the girls, getting in the car, going places, doing whatever, or to see if Chris was still there, maybe. But I think that might be why she pinged. And what terrible luck to do that, to have this morning where you're driving by and you make a phone call or whatever and you get a ping. So yeah, I think that was coincidental, and it might have had to do with her stalking. Yeah.
Mm. I mean, she could have, even the possibility, obviously that conversation, that night on the 12th may have
Sure.
been a very poignant, pivotal conversation.
Definitely.
Chris may have said, right, tonight I'm gonna, make that change or whatever that she was hoping for.
Right. Right.
And then maybe
Tonight
that
will be
morning
free
she,
or something. Yeah.
yeah, maybe that morning she
Hmm.
just happened to want to go and nose by and see if he was
I
there,
think so.
or yeah,
I
something like
do.
that. Yeah.
I do. And unfortunately, that coupled with the fact that she deleted her texts and lied about the reason why she did it, I think that those two factors right there, plus the Google searches, if they did in fact occur a year before, make her look terribly guilty. And we all want to blame her. And I see her as another victim. And I know everyone's going to hate me, but that's what I think, that she's a woman who could have potentially been another victim in the way she was treated and how it all came out. And the fact that, perhaps he did this because of her. She is a victim, and she'll have years and years of psychological trouble because look at where she's been and what happened to her. So I think I don't want to blame her perhaps as much as other people might want to blame her, because she is the mistress, and everyone hates the mistress. But yeah, I don't know. I
Mm.
don't know.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, straight away she's going to be hated, isn't she?
Right, she is.
Before
Right, right,
anything,
right.
because she's the mistress, she's going to be,
She
she's going to be
is.
hated.
Yeah.
And I think there's a whole psychological aspect behind that.
Oh,
Um,
definitely. Yeah, we're gonna hate her because she's a mistress, and how dare she? And we've all got husbands, and we don't want to ever see an NK in our lives. And I think that it's easier to just slap her in prison where we think she belongs, and that'll be the end to it. But I don't think she did anything. And some of these conspiracy theories are so elaborate that so many things would have to come together in order to make them work, and I can't understand that. There's no way. Usually the simplest was that oh gosh, what, I forget the name of the statement or the name of the quote, but the simplest answer is usually the correct answer. And I think that the simplest answer is that he did it.
yeah,
Hands down, he did it, all of it.
yeah, it's like Occam's razor, isn't it? The simplest
That's
theory.
it. I was going to say that, but I didn't think I was correct. So,
Yeah, I
right.
mean, and I did hear you touch on it, for instance, this so-called Nicole walking out the house, and I heard you say it, you've then got to believe that she would go to the lengths of dressing up like Chris, putting on the
No,
jumper
without,
and the,
and then leave your hair down and in a ponytail.
yeah, and carry
That's
a
where I have a
handbag.
problem.
Yeah, and carry a
Yeah.
handbag on her shoulder. I mean,
Right. And
it's kind of absurd, really.
well, I know with my purse, I carry it everywhere. Oh my gosh, if I go to, Vegas or to an amusement park or something, I'll do like the fanny pack thing, and it might feel so, empty, not carrying my big ugly purse. And so a lot of women would cling to their handbag. I don't think that's necessarily out of place or out of character, but I don't think she's going to put on a pair of ugly man jeans. Well, I mean, no one's going to see her, and his shirt, or a long sleeve black shirt, and even go as far as putting on some oversized black boots but not tying her hair up. I mean, well, I've got very thin hair, horrible hair, but she had long, thick hair, but she could definitely tie it up into a bun and put a baseball cap over it and just have Chris wear another baseball cap. It would have been so easy to do. Why would you leave your ponytail hanging if you're dressing up like your killer boyfriend or whatever, or the boyfriend you killed for? And why leave the house at all if the plan was to, I mean, people think maybe she helped with the bodies in the car or something like that. I don't think any woman, especially, she's younger than me. I can't see a younger woman wanting to, she would be haunted forever and ever and ever. It would destroy her life.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
can't see it. No way.
Plus, you have
Yeah.
the camera there. There's no footage of her ever
Right.
arriving there. There's no
Right.
footage. That's the only piece of footage. It just
Right.
it just happens to be the footage that we all have of Chris
Sure.
leaving. It's just
And yeah, people who say she exited and entered through the back door, that's entirely possible, and I can't debunk that. And I think in the book there is one point where I have her enter through the back door because of the cameras. So I mean, that's entirely possible. She could have gotten there and she could have left there, but I don't know.
yeah,
I don't think no one's gonna do all that unless I mean, I thought from the beginning, well, if she was involved, he should have had her, wear a baseball cap, let her hair down, wear some sunglasses, and pull the Lexus out of the garage and just go dump it somewhere. She looks enough like Shanann where no one would see it, and certainly not the cameras. But that would have been an excellent plan if she hadn't done that by noon when Nicole Atkinson got there. I don't know when she was planning to do it, all the while staying out of work that late. No, there's no
no,
way. And then going and clocking out at 3, which would have been what, 2-3 hours afterwards. No, I don't. No way.
no, it's all
No.
absurd. Plus, it shows in the discovery they got her full mobile phone records. Not just they haven't put it in the discovery, but they didn't just get her phone bill showing calls. They got her full
Her full record, right?
yeah,
Right.
which shows every single satellite, every single cell
And
on
it
that
would show
satellite.
where she was pinging from, and I'm sure between
Hmm.
8 a.m. and noon, she pinged several times in her office. We're not looking at things that we probably have evidence for, but it hasn't been put out there. I haven't seen anything about her cell phone records that morning. Have you at all, except for the 6:30 ping in front of, near the Watts home?
Yeah, they've
I don't
only
know where she was the rest of the day.
no, they've only given the Verizon phone records.
Right. Okay.
I just wish that law enforcement would just put something out just to kind of shut everyone up. Um,
Right. A statement at least to say, please, we appreciate your help, but we need to settle this matter once and for all. We've thoroughly investigated her and she had nothing whatsoever to do with the crime, period. But
hmm,
they won't. I really wish they would. If not for just the family's sake, both sides of the family need to have a definitive answer about this woman's involvement. And I think my heart breaks for the Ruseks. I mean, there's especially Frankie. They're just so crushed, of course, and I think that they're dealing with something that they really can't even at this point deal with. And just for their sake, I wish law enforcement would say she's cleared. You guys, we just leave her alone. She's cleared. You don't have to like her, but leave her alone. I wish
yeah,
they'd do that, but they haven't. Or even Tammy to say that, because she seems to be a wonderful lady. I want her as a friend too. But even if she came out and said that publicly, that would change everything, I think. But maybe not. Maybe they'd say, oh, well, they're helping cover it up because they have their man and they don't want us to worry about it any further. And they'll always say something about everything, people out there at large. Yeah, so they haven't. I wish they would too.
mm. That's the trouble. They like you say that people will always say it's a cover up or the DA.
Yep.
It's just never
Sure.
ending, isn't it? It's never
No,
ending.
never ending, and it'll go on and on. Even if the woman comes out and makes a TV show or writes a book or whatever about her experience with this man and with the whole crime, no one's going to listen to her, and everyone's going to twist it, and they're going to say she was guilty no matter what. And I understand that need to have this evil mistress blamed for something. Well, she can be blamed for having an affair with a married man, but she didn't cause him to kill them, even if his, pea brain, made him kill them because of her existing. It's not her fault. There's no way. No way.
No, and also it takes away from, what Chris did as well, doesn't it? When people
It
talk
does.
about all of
Yep.
this, it's almost like they're projecting their disgust at Chris onto NK almost.
Right.
And why,
Right. No, I agree.
why
I
can't
agree.
he do it? Why can't there are other? There's been quite a few recently, haven't there, where men have killed their families. It's not like this is,
Of course.
you
And
know,
there have been occasions where women have killed too, but I don't think this young woman who doesn't have any children of her own would kill babies. There's no way. No,
no.
no way.
She had a
No,
degree as well. She's got a degree in
she
geology, I
does.
believe. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
she's quite intelligent, I would guess,
She is.
having a
Very much
degree.
so.
And like you
Right.
say, why at that age would you throw your life away like that and do something
Exactly.
completely crazy like that? It just doesn't make sense.
Right. Right. There's no woman alive that I know of who would do that. And certainly there are, psychopathic killers, but the chance that these two people would meet, both of them having murderous tendencies, it's just, if it would have been something that went on since childhood, maybe they knew each other when they were children, and they had this big connection for many, many, many years, and they just started seeing each other romantically. I could see maybe if they were both sort of crazy that they would possibly get together and plan something like that. But in the position she was in, even with Chris, there's no way. There's no way you wouldn't do that unless she was stark raving mad too. I don't think so, though. I really don't think so.
No. I mean, she certainly
Mm-mm.
came across not very, in her interview, she certainly didn't come across very well. I admit that. And she does
No, she didn't.
sound
No,
shady and she does sound, she is telling some
right.
lies in there. And,
And I think a lot of that has to do with her voice
hmm
being so deep and scratchy. And a lot of times we take women like that and, for whatever reason, we'll name them Jezebel or, whatever, because she had that deep voice that people just don't like. My daughter has a deeper voice, and, she gets in trouble all the time that she's rude or what. She's not. She's got a deeper voice. And unfortunately, I've got a high little mouse voice, but I think that her voice and the way she says things had people thinking that she's got to be hiding something. Just listen to her. She has to be hiding something. And I don't think she is, except for the fact that she deleted everything about Chris so that she wouldn't look guilty. And that was the wrong thing to do, because she looks exactly that. She looks guilty because she did all
mm.
that. Which is a shame, Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the fact is they recovered all of her messages and texts anyway.
They did. Right.
There was
Right.
nothing in those texts to suggest anything,
Not at
that
all.
she would have been
No.
involved. They just sounded like, I mean, she sounded a little bit immature, naive to me.
She did.
They didn't really sound like they were deeply in love or anything like that.
No, not at all.
Um,
But
just
he thought perhaps this was love. And I think that, again, I believe, and I've argued with people who are actually close to the family, that he is a psychopath or a sociopath. And I believe he definitely is. And he didn't have any real emotions, and he didn't know what love was. So why not think this is love and this is worthy of murder? Because he didn't have any real emotions. So I can certainly see that, but not Nicole. She didn't. She seemed to be fairly normal, even though she's a little odd, a little bit of an oddball. That's okay. I don't think they would get together and do this. And there's no reason why she would get her friends together to kill this family and drag Chris into it, and that he'd be afraid of her afterwards. There's no way. Not at all. If he went
exactly.
along with a scheme to kill his own babies, he's not going to care if someone's threatening to kill his elderly mom or dad. I don't believe that at all. No.
No. And people, some people say, oh, Chris could never have done that. You just look at him; he's just such a normal guy. He
Right.
wouldn't have known what to do. But then you listen to his interviews, and he sat there talking about what happened as if it's just another
I know.
day.
As though
Like
he
he's
has
just been
no
down the
real
shop.
emotions. Right.
Exactly. So clearly, huge psychological issues there with Chris that people just seem
Oh,
to
for sure.
be ignoring a
Yes.
lot of the time.
Right, right. And I've heard other people give me an alternate diagnosis about what he might have, what his mental diagnosis might be, but I still say sociopath or psychopath.
Mm,
And the way that I know this is how he was able to acclimate to any situation. He was able to act like the perfect nice guy that you want next door or you want your husband to work with or whatever. um, he put on a mask that was so good. And a lot of psychopaths do that. They wear a mask and they conceal who they really are all their lives. And they can be quite charming. I think he was very charming. If you watch him playing with those little girls or, interacting with Shanann, you think, oh, what a nice guy. And a lot of times they are that way until something, because of their lack of real emotion, causes them to explode in some way. They don't have and you listen to him talking about it just like he's talking about a party he attended or something. It's not there's it's scary to listen to him talk about this. I don't know what else to say about his mental health except that I believe he's a sociopath or psychopath.
exactly.
Yeah.
He still elicits no emotion, does he? When he talks
None.
about it, even
Nope.
in all of his interviews, he's not, really, he's not broken down or shown any
No, not at
sign
all.
that any normal person would do.
Not at all.
Um,
No.
and that's
And he can't be in shock this much time later. No way.
no, no.
Right.
And that, I mean, that's why I feel it's important that people, see past all of these ridiculous sort of conspiracies and all this kind of stuff, and start to actually look at Chris, why he did what he did, how he did
Right.
what he did, and if we're going to get
Right.
anything positive or any chink of light to come from this, what can we learn from it? How can,
Right. What can we learn from it? How can
mm,
we recognize it in our own lives? And I don't think we can. If someone has antisocial personality disorder, I don't know if you've read any Alina's book, but she says that when they do snap, we say, where did my old best friend go? Or where did my old husband go? Or, whatever he was. And the thing is that the person they're being when they do snap and do something horrific, that is the real person inside of them. And they simply removed the mask. And I think he wore a mask all of his life, which is why he didn't want to get in trouble with anyone. He didn't want to tip over that belief that he was an all around good guy. And anytime anyone disapproved of him, he's thinking, oh gosh, they know that I am not this person I portray myself to be. So it all fits with antisocial personality disorder, in my opinion. I could be completely wrong, but I know Lena Girali, she kind of follows the same theory throughout her book, and I did it in mine. I think you may have noticed that when I mentioned that my Charlie's actually aware of his shortcomings, and he's aware that he doesn't have the proper feelings or emotion that everyone else would have. And I wonder if Chris had that feeling as well. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I'm sure a lot of psychopaths don't know that they are one of them. So I don't know.
mm. Do you
All
think,
scary.
very, very scary? Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. I mean, do you think if it wasn't NK, it would have happened some other time? Do you think it was just a ticking time bomb, or do you think it was
I don't
circumstances and,
Oh gosh, I don't know. I think the fact that I believe he pre-planned it maybe even a month beforehand. I think that it was going to happen because he was tired of them. They didn't give him pleasure anymore. And I don't even know if I doubt there was real love there. So I think that the first woman who showed him interest, he used that as an excuse to finally get rid of the things that he no longer enjoyed. I hate to say that, but it could have been anyone else. He thought this was the one, and I believe she was the catalyst, but not she didn't know she was, of course.
yeah,
But I think it could have happened down the road with another woman, or not even with a woman, just because he didn't want them around anymore. Yeah,
that's a terrifying thing, isn't it? Because
very.
I've no doubt that Shanann felt very loved. I know her family loved Chris very
I know.
much. So it must be terrifying to have felt that love from somebody when actually it was just hidden behind this black mask. It's
Sure.
just terrifying, isn't
I
it?
know. I agree. And I don't know if it's really a black thing or more like emptiness. Whereas you and I, if we accidentally step on our children's toe or something, we feel like we're going to die because we hurt someone we love. But I think that if you don't have that love, if you don't know what love is and you don't have emotion and you only know happiness or what you want or what makes you unhappy, you're not going to feel anything. You not only step on your kids toes, but you throw them in oil tanks, because why not? You don't have any emotions about any of that whatsoever. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah.
In
I
my
wish we could analyze him. I would love to talk to him. And well, I wouldn't love to talk to him. I think I'd be kind of creeped out by that. But I know that I would love to get a chance to actually analyze him and figure out what makes him tick. I don't think anyone knows at this point. I don't even think his own family knows, really.
No, I don't think either. I don't know if you'd. The thing is, I don't think you'd ever really get the full truth out of him. I don't know
No.
if you ever would. Yeah, I think that's a difficult one. In my personal opinion, I think he went to those lengths with the tanks because he wanted just for them to never be found, and I think in his head he thought that was a place where they would never be found, if you know what I mean.
Right.
He just
Right.
wanted them
And
to
they
just
could never get out too.
no.
That was one of his, I believe that was definitely one of his motives for putting them in there. And I have a psychic friend who's actually going to do a show with me on Miss Murder later this week. And she's told me one frightening realization that she had, a vision that she had about these children. And it indicates that they may not have been dead when he put them in the tanks. And I have that, at least for Bella, I have that terrible feeling that she may have been knocked out. She may have just been asleep. I don't think she was completely gone. I really don't. And that's horrible.
Yeah,
I hope, yeah, I
yeah.
hope she was, but
I,
I don't know.
personally, I just agree with you. I think she was. It's not an idea I want to entertain either, but and obviously people have
Sure.
their own opinions, but
Oh, sure.
yeah,
Of course. And I appreciate everyone's opinion about everything. I would never be angry with someone because they have a different opinion from mine, which is what I think people out there in the cyber sleuthing world, they're all forgetting that we're just trying to come to a conclusion so we can have justice for these babies and their beautiful mom. And so many people argue over people not having the same theory, but who cares? We're all heading towards the same goal of making sure that we understand why. And I don't think we'll ever understand why, no matter what we do.
mm, I suppose it's difficult. Just some would say, personally, I feel that kind of justice has been served. I think Chris is in prison.
Sure.
Um,
I
he,
agree.
he he was solely responsible, and I think
I
that's
agree.
as good as
Right.
you'll get. Mm,
Yep. He's in prison where he belongs, and he's the only one who needs to be there. That's it. You know,
yeah, there's no feel good in any of this, is there? Even, with full
no,
justice, there's no. It's always going to be a horrendous, dark, evil
it is.
crime.
There's never going to be justice for. I mean, I would almost want there to be someone else involved, because I don't want to think these babies knew their daddy was hurting them and it was him. I really would, almost really enjoy the fact that NK or anybody was involved in it, so that maybe they didn't have to look at their dad. I don't know.
I know
Yeah.
what you mean. Yeah. We've got a subscriber to the channel who did a really good article actually on Nicole Kessinger. We made a video
Oh,
about it. Are you okay if I just bring him on?
oh, of course, more the
Yeah,
merrier. Absolutely.
just be through.
Thank
He's
you.
he's he's got some really interesting theories on NK and why people choose to kind of try and incriminate her. Um,
Oh yeah, fascinating. Bring him on.
yeah, so bear with me 2 seconds and I will try and make this possible. Uh, where's it gone? Just got to find him. Bum, bum, bum. Dun, dun, dun. There we go. Okay, hopefully you'll be able to pick up. Hello? Hello?
Is he there?
Hello?
Hello.
Oh, hi there. Is that Andrew?
Hey,
How you doing?
I'm
Hi.
good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. You're on with me and
Hello.
Tanya.
Hold on.
Tanya's still on as
Let me
well.
go ahead and drop off of YouTube here.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
I think he's just muting his YouTube. Otherwise, you get feedback.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you very well.
There we
Yeah.
go. I can
Okay.
hear
I
you.
had to go ahead and cut the YouTube feed because it was the delay was causing some problems.
Oh,
All
no.
right. No problem. So yeah. So we've got Tanya on, of course. Now as I was saying to Tanya, I did your article a couple of weeks ago. You made a very interesting article about Nicole Kessinger's involvement and how people want to loathe her and stuff because of her so-called involvement. So
Right.
I just wondered if you wanted to just sort of elaborate a bit on what drove you to write that piece and why you think people have to have these kind of conspiracies and stuff.
Well, let me start by saying that I understand the people who are upset with her and feel that what she did was pretty horrible. I understand that it brings home for a lot of people their own fears of infidelity, of betrayal, of a lack of really understanding who you're married to or who you're with. So there's no one, I don't think, and I would count myself in this camp, who would say that what she did was okay. However, I think that where I started to see a problem was the idea that because she was guilty of engaging in an affair, and by the way, it should be pointed out that she wasn't the one that was married, he was.
Right.
He was the one who had taken marriage vows. And from all that we know, she was also being told by him that his marriage was, for all intent and purpose, over.
Right.
They were getting a divorce, or they were at least going to be separating. It made perfect sense. She was back in North Carolina for multiple weeks. And so I think he was telling her that. I think that there's a lot of evidence to suggest that that was the line he was using. That doesn't necessarily excuse it. However, I think it's important to put everything in context. And I think where I started to become concerned was when I saw people equating the affair with the murder and not drawing a distinction between those two things. And that became a pretty big problem for me. And in understanding the idea that one can be guilty of an affair and not be guilty of the crime that occurred involving Chris and his family. And I think that that's where Nicole found herself. And I think that it's also evident in the way she responded. And real quick too, I always think it's interesting when you look deeper into these cases that you kind of ask yourself, so what was the plan? Nicole is involved in a plot or a conspiracy to kill a man she's known for several months and his entire family. And on the day after she decides to do Google searches for how long police can keep your messages, or how long the phone company keeps text messages, this is not someone who had a plan. This is someone who just found out that her worst nightmare came true and she's panicking. And everything about her actions thereafter, to me at least, looks like understandable panic. That's not somebody who plotted this. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't wait until the morning that the whole thing's about to blow up and then say, you know what, I should probably check and see how long phone companies hold on to this stuff. It makes no sense.
None.
And that's just one of many examples, but that's what kind of inspired me to write it. Real quick, I want to thank the owner of Crime Piper who did post the article originally. There's a lot of really great true crime stuff over there if anybody's interested in going to check it out. And I'm very grateful that it was posted over there and also promoted very heavily. And of course, Chris, thank you for picking up on it and reaching out to me. and let me talk a little bit about it too.
Yeah, no problem. Like you said, I think it's important that people do cover all bases and get a balanced view. I think people go too much one way and they ignore certain things, like you said there, and Tanya, I'm sure you'll agree. Chris, no doubt,
Right.
told her many lies, right? Because
Oh,
we
for
know he's a
sure.
liar, right? So
Right.
he would have probably, she probably in her head was thinking, yeah, he is gonna, their marriage is crumbling. He's not interested in her. And he's probably telling her one thing and obviously doing another. I mean, that's pretty
Oh, of
obvious, right?
course. Right.
So,
No doubt he lied to her about everything. Yeah.
so it's no
Well,
surprise that.
and I think too. Go ahead. Sorry, Chris.
No, go on, carry on.
No, I think too. I mean, we gotta ask ourselves the question. There are two famous cases. Some people listening may remember one involving a woman named Diane Downs years ago. Anne Rule wrote a book about her called Small Sacrifices. And then there more recently was Susan Smith, who I believe
Yes.
lived in South Carolina. Both of those women were linked in some ways to the crimes they committed because of at least a wish for a continued romance with a man, or an affair that had ended, that was ended in part because of her having children. I wonder if anybody can name either of those two men.
No, I
If
can't
anybody
think of any.
remembers who
No.
they were.
I'm real
And the
familiar
reason
with cases now. Sorry, go ahead.
What's that?
I'm very familiar with both cases, but I don't remember the names now.
Right. And so I guess that was part of the question, though. We remember Nicole, but no one gives any kind of cover to Diane Downs or to Susan Smith because of affairs that were going on in both of their lives or had ended because of children. No one remembers those guys' names. And I realized that was before, social media, 24-hour news shows, and the unprecedented access we had into the Watts case. But I do think it's interesting the level of sort of, in my opinion, the level of cover, sort of having the easy way of saying, well, we really need to hold her to account. And in so doing, I think we do, and Chris mentioned it earlier, I think at least there's the opportunity to lend a bit of cover to the fact that this man, this terrible garbage human being named Chris Watts, decided to murder his entire family.
Well, sure.
I think we need to be consistent if we're going to say that affairs lead to familicide. I think we need to ask ourselves why we don't seem to put the same level of responsibility on the men that were involved with Downs and Smith. And by the way, Smith stood there on camera and cried her eyes out over her missing children.
Yes.
And she was as guilty as heck. And I hear people talk about Nicole's lack of emotion, but I also know that Nicole couldn't play that right, no matter what she did. If she'd sat in the interview room with Kobach and cried for 3 hours, then everyone would have said,
she's faking tears, right?
So, yeah.
No, I agree. And I don't know why we wouldn't point the finger at men who were involved in those previous crimes as well. And they weren't really involved. They were just people that these women killed their children in order to be with them. And you are correct. I don't remember either one of those gentlemen at all. But I think, from what I remember with Susan Smith, he didn't want to be with her at all. And one of the reasons was because she had the children. And I think he might have even been using that as an excuse just to get away from her. I don't know. But it's easier to point fingers at the woman. Well, for one thing, I think it's because a lot of us who follow this case are mothers and we are women. And we all, a lot of us do have husbands, and we think, wow, I'm just going to blame her because she's our worst nightmare come true. If it happens to my husband, there's going to be an NK behind it,
Right.
So I think that a lot of people who follow true crime are women, around my age group, who live in a similar situation, and they are always fearful of a mistress type of thing. And so let's just make her the enemy. It's so much fun. No, I as much as I feel negatively towards her because of what she did, because of the affair, there's no way I'm going to pin murder on her. There's no way, unless there was evidence of some sort. But yeah. I don't know.
And that's the fact there is no real concrete evidence.
No.
There's kind of a few things that look a little bit iffy,
right?
But there's nothing there that would clearly be there, right? If Like
Exactly.
like Drew was saying, they're not Bonnie and Clyde. They're not the perfect. They didn't
Right.
plot this.
Right.
It wasn't a plan or anything like that. It just
No, not at all. There would be
Well,
evidence of
and
that.
if it was, if this was a plan, it was quite possibly the worst one ever. So again, assume that they had some kind of a deal worked out. So what part of it involved her contacting the police and basically turning herself in as the person having the affair? I mean, this
Right.
makes no sense.
Right.
And I know people have suggested, well, Anna Darko was going to spill that, so she was trying to get ahead of it. But at the end of the day, I mean, these two are out, this very weekend that this occurs, they're out in public at a restaurant. They're having a
Right.
111-minute phone conversation the night of the issue. I mean, you don't think that two people involved in stealing a candy bar from a grocery store would think that maybe, just maybe, having a 111-minute phone conversation prior to the commission of the crimes might look a little suspicious when
A little
police get
fishy,
involved.
right? Yeah, I agree. And everything they did do, it's just they did look a little bit suspicious for various reasons, but there's no way I can wrap my head around this woman who is completely a normal, if annoying lady, would kill children and another woman. I can't even. I don't even think Chris told her this is going to happen or this has happened and it was all me. I don't think she was even involved in having any knowledge whatsoever of anything that happened. I think she realized it the next day and she got very scared, thinking that, oh my gosh, could this man I don't really know that well really do this? I'd better head off to the police department and tell them everything I know.
Right.
Yeah.
And I said in my article as well that, look, there were some things obviously that she did that don't look great, and
Right.
deleting the text messages obviously does not look great. The deception on certain levels that when she was talking to police don't look great. But I also kind of weigh that against a person who wants to get as far away from this as absolutely possible.
Sure.
And trying to understand too that you thought, the worst she could have ever imagined, I'm guessing here that the worst that she could have ever imagined would be that the affair would be discovered by Shanann.
Yes.
She would never have entertained the notion,
right,
that the worst that could happen was that he would do what he did, and that all of the fallout from that, and understanding the implications and how it was going to immediately look. I don't think it ever entered her mind that this was a possibility. And again, I think there are things to point to that, going and searching for the apartments,
right,
and looking for multiple rooms. I think the fact that she wasn't willing to let him move in with her, which, I mean,
Right.
again, does not strike me as a woman who's like, just get away from her, whatever the cost, whatever you have to do, you can always come live with me. She's, she
didn't even do that. Right.
So I don't think she was ready for that. And again, but I also mentioned in the article too, look, if something changes, there's no statute of limitations on murder, from my
Not at all.
understanding. If she's charged at a later point and the state has evidence and it reaches a grand jury and then eventually reaches a jury and they find her guilty of something, then obviously that's our legal system and that's how it works. But the notion that Nicole needs to prove her innocence is ludicrous. It's not how our system
you
works.
have to. Why? And I've been through a little bit of this myself as a writer. There are various times when people want to villainize me for this book or for my last book or whatever. And why would you have to just having a little taste of what it would be like to be accused of anything. Why would a woman have to prove she's innocent? She should be able to live among people and just be a normal, healthy person and not have to go into hiding because of this. And I think she was wise to Google Heidi to see what kind of life she has and how she's, affected by everything that happened with the Peterson case. And I don't know why we can't give her the same respect. The only thing I can figure is that we believe she knew that they were married and that they were not really separated. But then again, I think Chris lied to her about almost everything. So I feel sorry for her. I don't know what else to say about that. I probably shouldn't, but I do. I feel sorry for her. Not only,
Well,
go on,
yeah,
go on, sorry.
I think what it comes down to, I agree. I think whether it's a male or a female, I mean, all of us in this country have a presumption of innocence, at least as it
Of course.
pertains to the law. And I think what I have read comments, and I quoted a couple without attributing them because I'm not there to call anyone out specifically, of I don't care what they get her for as long as she spends the rest of her life in jail. I mean,
Right.
this is insanity. This
No,
is
I
not
agree.
how it works.
No.
And imagine if that's all it took. Imagine if the only thing that we needed to convict someone of a crime in this country was the overwhelming look being bad. I mean,
Right.
that would be really terrible. And I also pointed out too that, you know, most people, whether they want to admit it or not, or maybe they don't know about it, I mean, most people are pretty forgiving, and most people have had a friend, maybe a family member, someone who has been involved in some type of infidelity of some sort. And
Sure.
it's
Sure.
not a funny thing, and it's certainly not a good thing, but it's also
Right.
things that people forgive each other for and move forward from. And here what I see is this sort of like never ending attempt to convince the CBI, the FBI, and the Frederick Police Department that they just need to push a little further, a little harder, and they'll eventually have her, I
Right.
guess, you know, with an aerial photo from NASA showing her driving out to the service site.
Right. Right.
It's probably not going to happen.
No, it's not. And I mean, even the little clues that we do have indicate that she had nothing to do with it. But then again, you can make a whole bunch of evidence up, or you can see things that aren't there. And again, I appreciate those people who are leading in that direction, as long as they're not doing it just because she is a mistress and she's not very likable, really. From what we've heard in her interview, she might have been scared to death, and she's really a very charming person. I don't know. But if they had real evidence, there's just nothing. There's nothing. No, she didn't do it.
No, there is nothing. I mean, and I mean, touching on, say, the red car theory and all of that. When you think about it, the whole thing is absurd. I mean, they're gonna, rather than waiting for Betty to 30 seconds a minute to drive off, so they wrote this, that everything's clear. Boom, they go the instant that she
Right.
goes. I mean, it's just, I mean, that's just ridiculous in itself, isn't it? And there's no
Right.
Well,
there's no footage of this red car ever arriving on the gravel. You would see it there on the gravel, clearly on the camera, on the doorbell cam. There's just a
Sure.
million things that point and say, well, no, that's just
It would have
ridiculous.
been right. It would have been visible on the doorbell cam when Shanann came home the night before. Unless, again, that I don't know when it would have gotten there between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. I don't know when it would have gotten there, and Chris would have had to go out and move his truck. I don't know. I don't know how to resolve that issue. I don't know. I don't think it happened. I really
No.
don't.
And how
well,
stupid
but
would you
also
have to
think of
be
it
as well to do that? I'll
Right.
park a big
Right.
car right up by the neighbour's house.
right, but also look at it.
Definitely. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, and consider too, I mean, what would be the purpose of her being there? I mean, Chris
Right.
presumably believed that he was going to go to work that day, that he was going to come home and he was going to start to kind of clean up some of the things that Nicole Atkinson's arrival kind of messed up for him.
Right.
If Nicole's in the house and her role is to, in some way, shape, or form, assist, you would think, again, that if you had even the modicum of a plan in place, that she would be responsible for grabbing the phone, the purse, the medications, the wedding ring, all these things. So what, Nicole hides in the basement for a few hours and then walks out the back door, not taking any of the really problematic pieces of evidence left behind, and why
Sure.
Officer Coonrad, when he showed up, is walking through the house, and you can tell this doesn't look good. This woman with 2 kids leaves her car in the garage with 2 car seats, doesn't take her purse, doesn't take her ring, doesn't take her phone. It immediately looks bad. So there was no evidence of any kind of a plan that
No.
Nicole, if again, and I'm only talking about people who subscribe to the idea that she was in the house. I mean, to do what exactly? She didn't take
Right.
anything. She didn't hide anything. There's nothing there except, oh, well, maybe that's, maybe she snuck into the house in order to assist. Well, again, there's just no reason to believe that that occurred in any way. I think what happened was Chris thought he was going to come home that night, and all of a sudden everything got really time crunched for him, and he could not go home and get rid of that stuff like he had hoped to be able to do, to make it look like she had left with somebody else.
Right. No, I agree. And I think that you're right. If she would have been positioned there from 5:30 that morning until, what was it, 12 something, when Nicole Atkinson showed up, she would have done some stuff. You know, she would have taken the purse and she would have put it with the medications, you know, at least thrown them into the bag. And I think that if they had the plan for her to drive away resembling Shanann, that would have, unless she went back to sleep or something bizarre like that, that would have happened prior to Nicole Atkinson showing up the front door. I would bet that if someone else, if she was involved, she would want to get that part of the charade over with quickly. She wouldn't wait, 6 hours, 7 hours to go to do all that. At least she'd grab the purse and throw the medications into it, pack a few items of clothing into a duffel bag or something, anything. She would have staged some of it prior to Nicole Atkinson arriving at the door. And I think also at that moment where there was a notification about something with the television, I have a theory that maybe the TV would have been rebooting or reloading or whatever it is that my TV does every night at like 3 a.m. I think that might have been what that was all about, but I can't be sure. I don't know.
I've actually looked at a lot of the router logs, and it's quite boring. It's quite technical stuff, but a lot of it is just simple kind of devices renewing their IP addresses and stuff like that. There's nothing
exactly
actually,
right.
You know, there's always a pattern with majority of them. There's a pattern. So there's nothing really. I know some people have said that this proves that they switched on the TV, or this proves that it doesn't.
No.
It doesn't.
No.
It doesn't work like that. But yeah, and even just taking NK out of it, there are these conspiracies that it was going to be an insurance job, you know, suing against Anadarko and that kind of stuff. But then you look at it and think, well, why would he have phoned the school and told them that the children aren't coming in? Why would he have had the gas can, clearly holding up the gas can on the camera? And, you know, he just left the sheet blowing in the wind out there.
I know, how
none
bizarre.
of that, none of that lends to me any kind of insurance job.
No. And
no,
go on.
No, I think what that also really kind of points to me is that this was not. I mean, if this was a plan, and I state in my article that while incredibly lethal, he was also somewhat shockingly inept. I mean, and I'm not trying to make light of anything here. This is a serious issue, but this was an absolutely horrendous plan that stood no chance of ever fooling anyone. From Officer Coonrad to Special Agent Coder to Tammy Lee, I don't think there was a single moment that they thought he wasn't involved. Not one. No. I think they knew that he had been responsible for this in some way, shape, or form from the moment he came in for that first series of questioning. It was a terrible plan.
Absolutely.
I agree. Yeah.
Very
and if there was someone else involved, I'm sure that they would have had a way between two brains. They would have been able to figure out how not to do so many stupid things, you know, like the sheet out there, or throwing another sheet in the trash can, for goodness sakes, you know. And someone would have been able to smooth out some of those plot holes, or whatever you want to call them. I think I don't believe there could have been anyone more than Chris Watts involved in this. No one. Yeah.
No. And I know, looking at the Discovery, that even in sort of October, Detective Baumhofer was still looking through everything. You know, he's still documenting stuff in the Discovery in October. Regarding Nicole and Tammy Lee. She was there in the interview saying, I don't know if you heard her, but she said, I'm going to go through the text with you, or someone said Tammy's going to go through your text with you to Nicole. She was right there. You know, I'm sure someone like Tammy Lee, you know, would have kind of picked up on something if Nicole was in any way involved.
She's very smart. She would have definitely picked up on anything like that.
Absolutely.
And I think they sort of quizzed him well, not directly, but they sort of got around the issue when they went out to visit him in February in Wisconsin. They asked him some questions, and I don't remember off the top of my head why I have this impression, but they asked him a few questions trying to figure out if anyone else was involved. So I don't think she was. No, I don't.
No.
And I know a lot of people will be mad at me for that because I know a lot of folks do believe she was, but that's fine.
I think maybe, I think, Drew, you touched on this a little bit. By keeping her involved, or there being someone else involved, it almost keeps the story relevant and interesting for some people. I think that's probably part of the problem as well.
I think so. I think that there's at least a group of people who have sort of decided that they are going to, again, sort of exact the judicial revenge for, or judicial outcome for what they consider to be a moral failing. I think the danger in that is that what we wind up with is instead of looking to see where things actually take us, it becomes more about finding ways to smooth the road so that it takes us where we want to go. And this is difficult. And I know that when I was writing my article, I stopped more than a few times and thought, do I have this all wrong? Am I missing something here? And I still, at times, will confess to the idea that, boy, one day I could really look bad and really look like a fool for having put this out. But at the same time, if that day comes, that will be a small price to pay if she's in fact involved in this in some way, and we wind up with her where she would belong if she was involved. And I'll be happy to take the hits for that. But I think where it becomes problematic is when people are trying to see the end. They want an outcome, and so what they do is they just look for ways to achieve the outcome instead of maybe stopping and saying, hey, and again, Chris never comes close to implicating her as having been involved directly or indirectly. I'm going to talk here about the interviews that we have, the on-record interviews, certainly during the Coder and Lee marathon interviews, and then again in Wisconsin. He's given plenty of opportunity to point the finger at her, and every time he says, no, now why? Was it to protect her? Well, he's in jail prison for the rest of his life, so forever, to what end would that benefit him? I don't see, I think at a certain point, I mean, if he is as selfish and arrogant and narcissistic as so many people believe he is, and he was willing, let's not forget the first person he pointed the finger at was who? It was Shanann. So why wouldn't he sell Nicole out at a certain point if he thought it would in some way, shape, or form ingratiate him or lessen his culpability? I think the fact that he never does that, yet though he was willing to throw Shanann out there, also speaks to the fact that, she got caught up in something she, I'm sure, wishes now that she had never gotten involved in, but that's where it ended. And he took the actions to murder his family, and he took that terrible decision. And I think that's where it ends. And I think by continuing to promote this idea that it's just around the corner, we're going to find the screen capture of her, we're going to find the bloody glove a la OJ. I just, maybe they will one day, but it's been, what's it been? It was this has been going on in 2018. We don't have it.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people would answer your questions by saying that he was threatened by NK and her troop of dark friends or whatever, that his family would be killed. I'm talking about his extended family, his parents and his sister and her kids or whatever. A lot of people do point to that Nicole and her, dark and sinister buddies actually threatened him and said that the rest of your family will be next if you ever say a word about who really did this. And that's going into, Hollywood type of stuff. I don't see how Chris would be so afraid. And then you say, why would Nicole and a bunch of her buddies decide to kill any family? There was no money in it. There was nothing. Shanann wasn't a prominent politician or anything. Why would you, what motive would you possibly have for killing these people as an outsider. There's no way.
Exactly.
But your point is a good one. I mean, this is where we are. We're at dark arts and Dungeons and Dragons. That's now where the conspiracies have led us. That it's the, it's somehow it's the the meeting of Aleister Crowley and his descendants that have decided that this is what we're going to do. And that's my point. And I think what Chris was asking is, we see this kind of thing occur, and I start to say, again, what is the simplest explanation? What is the reason? What is the explanation that is the most reasonable to grasp and understand? And once you go into the land of Dungeons and Dragons and try to find your truths there as it relates to Nicole threatening his family, I think you've just kind of maybe gone, way more than a mile too far down the road of things that just don't make sense.
And I do believe she was probably into, or is probably into, white magic and crystals and tarot cards and all this stuff that a lot of women, including myself, have dabbled in the past. And it's just kind of a thing you do. And it has nothing, it's the new age stuff. It has nothing to do with anything dark or sinister, or, where you need to sacrifice babies, certainly. So they pushed that a little too far too. And there's nothing. She didn't, she didn't lop the heads off of rats, or there's nothing that she did, I don't think, that would indicate that this would be part of, the dark magic realm of Nicole Kessinger. No.
Yeah, I think that's just like you were saying, Drew. I think they've kind of reached that point, haven't they, where that's kind of all that's kind of left to cling to, really, is stuff like that. And who knows how dark this stuff is? Like you say, some people refer to that white magic and stuff like that, and crystals as could be dark to Chris Watts, couldn't it? Who knows?
It could be, right?
So yeah, I really see nothing in that. I think, like you were saying, so much was made of that when probably it was
but remember
nothing.
too, Chris, that this is also where I struggle with this type of explanation. Is not only does this go into a kind of twisted hyperbole involving Nicole, but it also starts to take again some of the culpability and responsibility off of Chris. I mean, if he was under the spell of a wild hex, and that's what made him do something like this, then again, it becomes easier to say, well, see, now he was responsible, but, and then you put the but in front after it, and you start to find reasons, not you, but people can start to find reasons why, he was so led astray by the, by the dark arts temptress. And it is a way, again, of minimizing his responsibility, his culpability, and his ultimate decision to take the lives of his entire family. And I think it's a disservice to the idea that he is where he belongs, and that we need to allow for the fact that, sure, something could change. And I want to say that one more time, because I know that someone's going to write back or write me and say, well, what if they find X? Hey, if they find something down the road, then I want, and it's compelling and it gets to a grand jury, then obviously I want justice to be served in this case. However, we can't manufacture that just to feel better about, or to continue to keep alive the idea that there's something more here. I think he is where he belongs. I think he made the decision to do this and took these awful steps. And I think that it's time to allow for that closure and to the healing, and for the families to be able to move forward. That's where I stand with it right now.
Totally agree.
I agree completely. Yeah.
And only then can maybe people start to focus on Chris and maybe try to understand why he did, what he did.
Right.
If we'll ever give
and we need that answer too. But no, certainly, if there was evidence or anything that, even, watching people with their theories, if there are little elements of truth in there, of course I agree and say that I see where they're heading, or why they see what they see. And if there was real evidence in the end, of course I would agree with it and be sorry that I didn't see that she was so guilty from the beginning. I think all of us would do that. But yeah, I don't think there's anything out there.
No, absolutely. Well, I think we all agree on that. That's good. because I think it's important to put to keep pushing that, because I think so many people have become almost confused and just baffled by everything, and a lot of these conspiracies, maybe they've been drawn in and they don't quite know exactly the whole facts of the case. Maybe a lot of people won't look
Right.
into a lot of people won't look into it themselves, will they? They won't look through the discovery, and
No.
they'll rely on other
No.
people to tell them that. So
Right. Right.
I imagine there's probably a lot of confusion surrounding this case for sure out
Oh, of
there.
course there is. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, it's been great having you both on anyway.
Well, thank
It's
you.
been very interesting chat for sure.
For
Um,
sure.
I'm sure
I
everyone's.
appreciate it, Chris. Thank you very much, man.
That's okay, no
Yeah.
problem. Perhaps we could reconvene at some other point in the future.
Oh, absolutely. I'm usually free. So anytime. And thank you for having me. And it's been a lot of fun, guys. And I appreciate you coming out to chat with me. I don't know if I contributed anything meaningful here, but thank you for having me on.
No problem. We'll put obviously a link to your book and everything under the video,
Thank
and
you.
Drew will put a link to your article in the Crime Piper
Thank you.
article.
Wonderful.
Appreciate that.
Did you want us to put your email address as well, if anyone wanted to direct anything towards you?
If anybody, yeah, I think we talked about that earlier. If anybody, I would rather it not wind up you getting diluted or deluged with critique. If anyone wants to reach out, they're welcome to do so, and I'm willing to entertain people's points of view, and I've listened to a lot of them, and so whatever works there, and I just appreciate the opportunity to come on and discuss.
That'd be great. Yeah, we'll do that then. We'll
Wonderful.
do that. Okay, well, thanks both. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day
Thank you.
or evening.
Thanks, guys.
Time goes so fast. So yeah, thanks again.
Awesome.
You,
It was
Chris.
a great show.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
Glad to be part of it. You want me to disconnect here? I don't know.
Yeah, I can do that. That's fine.
Knock me out. Okay,
Yeah,
thanks
I'll knock you
again.
out. Thank you. Thanks, Tania.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
Oh, there we go, guys. Well, I hope you found that interesting. I think it's important to have, that balance when looking at this case, that kind of balanced conversation. And Tania's book's very good. Oh, thank you, Kimberly. Thank you for that super chat. It's very kind of you. I think it's very important to have this balanced conversation because, like I say, I think there is a lot of probably, confusion and all these conspiracies, and obviously the family. Frankie's asked for it all to stop. I mean, they've asked, he even said himself, they've asked law enforcement, numerous times, is anyone else involved? And if anybody's going to know, it's probably going to be the FBI, isn't it? Not some people on the internet. The evidence that they had, the evidence that they've gathered is pretty extensive, and there's no way that they're going to let somebody just walk away so easily. I mean, of course, like we were saying, if anything does come up, and then of course justice needs to be served. But at the moment, for anybody who has conclusively gone through discovery, there isn't. There just isn't. You can pick something out and ignore a couple of other things and make something look like it's guilt on her part. But if you take everything into context, and you put logic and common sense to it, then it's in my opinion, I can only say in my opinion, of course, but probably the opinion of most people on this channel, that Chris acted alone, and only then I think when people stop talking about some of these absurd conspiracies anyway, then people can start really trying to find something from this case that could be in any way helpful to anyone else, and look at why Chris did what he did, just what led him to do what he did. Can it be prevented? Are there signs that can be seen that could obviously prevent this from happening again? Of course, it does happen. There's been other cases. It's just on those cases we didn't have all of the body cam footage. We didn't have huge discovery to pick over. But these things do happen. Unfortunately, there are psychopaths out there. There are sociopaths out there. And they do these things. They don't need accomplices to help them. and American law enforcement doesn't need to be put down. Doesn't need to be, they haven't dropped the bomb. They know what they're doing. Have faith in your law enforcement. You've probably got one of the best law enforcements in the world in America, in the FBI. So, have faith in them. I'm sure they're not corrupt. I'm sure the DA Rorke's not corrupt. I'm sure he knows what he's doing. But anyway, much appreciated. As I say, I hope you found it interesting. If you look under the video in the description, there will be the link to Tania's book. I'm up to chapter, was it 31? I think it is, and it's an excellent book. I've got to say, it's a crime fiction, so names have been changed, locations have been changed, but it's quite easy to see the correlation between this and the Christopher Watts case. But it's also written from the victim's perspective, which I found very interesting. Anyway, it's a very good book. I certainly recommend it. Check it out underneath the video. And also I'll put under there the link to Drew's page and his article and his email if you want to address any questions to Drew. But thanks again, guys, for coming in. Thanks, Firefly and Kimberly, for looking after you. Thank you again, Kimberly, for the donation. I'll make sure that goes to either be Lupus or National Centre for Exploited Children. I've always said that if we ever talk about this case on here, on a live, that's where I want the donations to go. So when that comes through, I'll make sure that goes there. Yeah, thanks everyone, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Follow your country's guidelines, obviously, for the coronavirus. Here in the UK, we're kind of clamping down now. We're not an official lockdown, but we're in a kind of unofficial lockdown now, and they're saying don't go out to bars and don't go out to try and stay out public as much as you can, really. But yeah, Drew was both excellent guests. I thought both excellent guests. So yeah, thanks again, everyone. Stay safe, stay virus free, and I will speak to you again. Sorry about the technical difficulties and sorry about being late. Okay, thanks again.